Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira. You're listening to Munira's Musings, a show that showcases entrepreneurs and coaches and people from different walks of life who share the secrets to their success, the secret to their niche, the secret to what makes their boat float. As the niche navigator, I find that there are so many people out there who are always looking for opportunities and have missed many, and they don't know where to start. It is our hope that but by listening to this show and listening to the guests that we are showcasing on this show, that you will find the silver lining in yourself to take the next step and become an entrepreneur and achieve the dream that many people just dream about and don't take action to. Today, our guest is Mary Savarese, Mary K Savarese. She is calling us all the way from West Palm Beach in Florida. Welcome to Munira's Musings, Mary. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Hello, Munira, and hello, everybody.
Thank you so very much. So, Mary, you're an author. You write in a different genre. You have quirky titles. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I would love to, Munira. I am a traditionally published fiction author, award-winning, best-selling. And for me, it's been a long journey. And I was just listening to your wonderful introduction about finding your niche. And I'm an overnight success, a 10-year overnight success. And what I mean by that is, I raised a family, I worked, I volunteered. As women, we wear many hats. And I always had on the back burner an idea for all these stories. And finally, when my children began to leave the nest, I started to try to prove to myself, like it's called put more yay in your day, where I try to prove to myself that I can actually write. So it's been a long journey. But during that journey, that took me 10 years before my goal of being traditionally published actually happened. I also, as a woman, was dealing with a point in my life. I had just passed menopause. My youngest was ready to graduate from college, and as all women, oh, I'm thrilled. I'm an empty nester. This is going to be wonderful. Well, something happened to me. All of a sudden, my legs would go numb, my arms would go numb, and I thought it was physical. Well, after a while, it took me a good year and a half to find out. And what I'm going to say is going to sound terrible, but it's the truth. I had to come to terms with the fact that my family unit was dead. And what I mean by that are the babies I raised, the toddlers I chased after, the teenagers I stayed up all night, well, almost all night, waiting for them to come home. They were gone. I still had my children, but a different capacity. And yes, it's wonderful. But I had to come to terms with that in my life. And at that point, I was writing, sending out manuscripts. And Munira, it saved me. And women as well as men go through this in their lives. So I love to talk about it. And the reason I love to talk about it is because what I went through, I was ashamed. I could do anything. We as women, we are able to handle every problem. So I kept this a deep secret until it took over my life physically. And it was, when I look back now, it was a blessing. I learned how to deal with it. I crossed over that bridge, and I'm just thrilled to say that I was able to deal with the issues that I was facing at the time. And it's not like I don't deal with anxiety now, I do, but I was able to find the tools, which are very important to deal with the severe anxiety that I had at the time.
So you are saying that you didn't have anxiety. I mean, you had anxiety when they were kids and everything, but it wasn't to this point. But then you found yourself alone because all the kids flew the coop. And now you decided, oh, now what do I do? Because we do feel that way because we're so in tune with that life, right? And all of a sudden now, everything that we have been doing, everything that we knew how to do is no longer relevant in our lives. So that's so amazing. And you said you started sending out manuscripts. So how long have you been writing?
I've been writing for over 10 years, and I was honing my craft, and it gave me such joy. So one of the things I want to stress to your audience is if you have a passion in your heart, you have a desire to do something, it doesn't have to be writing, it could be anything. Never give up on yourself. This writing gave me joy, and my goal was to become traditionally published. So as I kept writing, I kept saying maybe one day, and if it never happened, it would have been okay too, because I love to create wonderful stories. I love to write in fantasy and mystery and weave it in with romances and to bring my readers on a journey, because as we know, reality is too real, and it's wonderful to just escape a little bit and to dig into a good book. And as I said, I love to write with quirky titles, which I would love to share with your audience how those came about. My first novel that was traditionally published is called Tigers Love Bubble Baths and Obsession Perfume. Who knew? And that title came about with an event in my life where I visited an old reserve in St. Augustine, Florida. And it was really an old home for big cats that were tossed aside, maybe from people that had them as pets, which was crazy, or cable shows or movies. And I watched this 600-pound Siberian tiger walk across the plank, look as though he's taking off a rope, and he slipped into this vat of bubbles. And the wildlife handler sprayed Obsession Perfume on his tongue. He lapped it up, and I said, that is the title of my next book, Tigers, of my next manuscript, Tigers Love Bubble Baths and Obsession Perfume. Who knew? And it was a metaphor, because these big cats and this tiger was tossed aside like an old shoe and was starting all over again. And my protagonist starts all over again. But guess what? She has to deal with one murder after another. Is she the cause? Is she next? And that was my debut novel. And I was with a small publishing house. Well, you would think, Munira, that once you become published, and it does become a best-selling ebook, that they'll publish more of your books. And I found that wasn't the case. My publisher, I had an idea for a trilogy. The small publishing house I was with said, we don't publish trilogies. So I approached another small publishing house, a new startup company, Indigner House, run and owned by women. So I'm just so thrilled. And they signed me on for a 3-book deal. And the first book, The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper, was published last year. And we know what toile is. You can see it behind me. It's part of our everyday lives, but you don't realize it, that it's called toile. But as you can see, it's a very vibrant wall covering or wallpaper or fabric, and it tells a story. So I would have this in my home, and I said, there's love there, there's betrayal, there's fantasy. So I take you on fantasy, adventure, and I weave in romance, and I bring you into the past and into the present. And that was the first book. The second book in the trilogy will be published in a couple of months. And it's, as I said, I began with a struggle, and it was just such a passion for me that I loved doing it, and I never gave up on myself. And here I am today. The books have all won awards. I'm humbled and thrilled to say that.
So this is so amazing. So you took what you saw and you created a title. Now, did you write the book before you thought of the title, or did the title come first?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question, because I always start with the title. Something, an event in my life, and that's where I start with a title. At that point, I have a general idea which way I want the story to move. Mystery, fantasy, and then I weave the characters. And I become, in my head, it's not that I walk around and I talk like the characters, but writers, we take on the lives of these characters, because you have to know what motivates them, what thrills them, what they love to do. And that's the next part. And then there's some writers that can do the whole outline, not me. I have a general idea of how it's going to end, but that is part of the journey that I love, because my writing takes me on a fantasy journey. And as I start to write, I can move this way, I can move that way. And that's really my favorite part.
This is, so you're speaking like a true author, right? Because you've written books and you've just felt it. So your idea came from the tapestry behind you.
Yes. Yep. That is Toile. And that was like, that's the first book of my trilogy, The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper. And as I said, I had it as wall covering in my home when I lived in Connecticut, and I would walk by it every day. And when I saw stories there, because it could be anything. Toile can be contemporary. It can be scenes. It could be something happening in life, anything. So I take the reader on a fantasy journey, and I weave in romance. And it was compared, my reviews compared it to Doctor Who and A Wrinkle in Time. And so I am just so proud of that and humbled at the same time. And I take you to Italy, and I take you to Florence and to Siena, and I bring you into that part of the world, and I take you to a different point in time, and I bring you into the present. And I weave in all the characters, and I weave in a young adult romance. I weave in a first time 30 romance. I weave in, unfortunately, divorce. That's true life. And I weave in that first love. So I love romance. I think is so important in a story. At the same time, I'm taking you on a fantasy adventure.
So have you been to these places, Florence and?
Yes. Many years ago, when my oldest daughter and son, they studied abroad for a semester. So yes, part of my writing, I walk around with this little green book, a notebook, and I get ideas, and I get ideas for characters for the future. And I get names that I hear or places that I think I would love to bring a reader to.
This is amazing. So do you have any formal training as a writer?
You know how I learned? I learned through reading, just being an avid reader. And one of the things, Munira, that I learned right on that made a world of difference to me was an editor had said to me, if you can see it as a movie in your head, you can write it. That is like, if you can see what you want to write about as a movie, you can start writing. You write one word, it becomes a sentence. A sentence becomes a line, a paragraph. Before you know it, you have one page. If you write one page a day in a year, you will have a novel. And at the same time, as a writer, what I had to learn was don't tell your audience, show your audience. Basically, your reader becomes the characters themselves as they become part of the action. So that's another big aspect of writing a novel. Show, don't tell.
So I like the points you're sharing. You say start just writing, even one word becomes a sentence, right? One word becomes a sentence, and then just make sure that you are taking people on a descriptive journey where you're not telling them, but you're showing them so they can picture it, right? This is so amazing. So there's so many people. We talk about having stories within ourselves. We all have stories. What is the last thing you want to share with your audience, with the audience today, and you want to talk to them about? Start to write, because everybody says, I have a book in me, but I just can't write it.
It's truly, if you truly feel this is your passion, the one thing I say to everybody, young, middle-aged, old, never give up on yourself, because we're surrounded by everybody that just wants to squash your dreams. This is what you do. La, 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 la. I love myself. This is my dream. I'm going to stick with it. You don't have to announce it to the world. Just try to take it on a quiet basis, and always one step at a time, because it is, as we all know, Munira, it's so overwhelming when you think of that whole picture. But if you take one little step, that's been my whole time, one little stepping stone after another, and it can lead to somewhere else, as it has in my life. And as a theme in my Star Writers trilogy, it is written in the stars for each one of us, for you, for me, for everybody. And what I mean by that is I love the fact that we all have a destiny, and that destiny is maybe set in stone, or you can change it and it's still set in stone, but we all have a purpose. And that's what I want your audience to know, is to never, ever give up on yourself, ever.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it. This is a woman who's raised her kids, who's felt what we are feeling, or we may have felt. And she's an empty nester like some of us here. And she's taken her passion of writing. So the ideas keep coming. And she had a green notebook that she took around wherever she went, and she started writing. Just put ideas down, because you never know where these ideas are coming from. I think all audiences, all authors out there, make this a habit of just mentally making notes or writing things down. And we tend to forget. There was one time when I was writing a paragraph in my head, and then I was just writing it in my head, and I forgot about it at the next minute. But if you have a little notebook, you can put your ideas down, and you can just talk about it. Now you have so many apps that you can just voice chat, and it writes it out for you. And all you have to do is just put it down somewhere so that idea doesn't evaporate. Take that. If you're ever thinking of writing a book, or if you're thinking of being a writer, we're not asking you to be J.K. Rowling's or anything, but put your ideas down, because everyone has a story within you. Any last words, Mary?
Again, just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Love yourself. And don't let other people put you down. As I said, go like this, la, 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 la.
So she's got earplugs. We all need to get those, and then just listen to us and not listen to everybody else. Because she's right. There's so many people out there who crush our dreams and ask us, why do you need to write this book? Well, it doesn't matter. Leave a legacy for your family. And if you have a few things, a few ideas, put it all down. You can't become an author if you don't put a word down. So you got to write.
Right. And if your passions in your life are not writing, there's so many other passions. And how do you know what your passion is? If you can't wait to get out of bed early in the morning, that's your passion. You want to do something. It's a part of your soul. That is your passion. And it could be anything. You could be an artist. You could love to travel, volunteer. I mean, there's just a world of opportunity out there. And it helped me. My writing really helped me, because if I take The brain is an amazing part of our body, because if I concentrate on my writing, guess what? I'm not concentrating on myself. And that anxiety just sweeps away from your body because I am concentrating on my writing. So that is one thing that I realized. You find a passion, you kind of let it flow through you.
And that's another thing, right? What if you're passionate about something, then let it calms you down, because when you are in that mode of creating, you are just oblivious to whatever is happening. I love my podcast. So when I'm here, anything out there is irrelevant. So I totally get it, Mary, because when you say that it calms you and you're in that moment, it's so amazing, because when you are in that moment, creativity takes over and you begin to create.
Yep. And my books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any independent bookstore. My books are everywhere, and you can check me out on my author website, www.maryksavarese.com. You can connect with me, and I love to connect with my readers. And as I said, if you love fantasy, if you love adventure, if you love romance, then you're going to love The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper, the trilogy. And if you love mystery, romance intertwined with the supernatural, with the spiritual, then you're going to love Tigers Love Bubble Bath and Obsession Perfume. Who knew?
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Take a moment, get the books. Take a moment to connect with Mary K Savarese, because she is the real deal. She has written several books. She's writing the second book in her trilogy. And we want to know what the mystery is all about. So let's figure this out. But there's an author in you, and I want you to take that first step. If you're thinking of writing, take the first step to take down a few words, to make a sentence, to make a paragraph, to write a page. Until we meet again, if you like what we are sharing with you, please share and subscribe to our channel. And we will be back with another guest next week. Until then, have a wonderful week. Thank you, Mary. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.